At this time, the court is going to call two cases together this morning, as they are related cases with many of the same parties and issues. The court at this time does recognize that the department is present this morning, represented today, as always, by Mr. Mike Knight, and joined by Ms. Joella Puente and Ms. Maria Fernandez. Ms. Rita Morales is here. Ms. Morales is the attorney for the respondent mother of Jose and Jolene Elidia Gomez. Ms. Gomez is not present. Ms. Michelle Jones is not present. She is the attorney for the respondent father in the Altamirano case, Mr. Jose Altamirano II. He is also not present. And then in addition, we have Mr. Gary Hall here. Mr. Hall is the attorney for Miss Mary Lou Rodriguez, who is the respondent mother in Serenity's case and a party by virtue of prior orders in relation to Jolene and Jose. Mr. Ruben Tijerina, who is the attorney ad litem for the children. Kathleen Patton is here with CASA of B County, along with Mary Ann Featherston. And then I believe Miss Yvette Alvarez just joined. She's the current placement for the children. Has recognized everyone who's here. And in light of the fact that neither Mr. Altamirano or Ms. Jones is present, I think we can go ahead and move forward. And what I will do is address counsel for Mr. Altamirano shortly. I know Ms. Jones has had a death in the family, and given the timeframes that are involved in the case, I think the court is going to consider a substitution of counsel given where we are. So, Mr. Knight, if you're ready to proceed, I will turn it over to you and allow you to guide us through an update as to where we are in the case.
I'm as ready as I'm going to get, Your Honor. Ms. Puente, has there been any change in placement of the children since the last hearing?
No, they're still in the same placement.
And what is the path forward from today?
For today, the department will be asking that Miss Mary Rodriguez be able to have some maybe unsupervised visits with the children before we proceed to weekend visits, and then possibly a return and monitor.
Ms. Rodriguez is the only person in the case that's doing everything that CPS has asked her to do. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. She has done everything. Mr. Jose Altamirano was recently released from jail back in the beginning of February. He is working services. He's more involved, I guess I would say, in the Nueces case with the two younger children, where he is having visits with those children. I did send him the link for today's hearing, so I'm not sure why he's not on. Miss Elidia Gomez, the mother, recently reached out to me 2 weeks ago. She did drug tests for me. She hasn't started the services, and I also sent her the link, and she's not on.
Getting back to the drug test issue, the father, has he drug tested in either case?
Yes, Mr. Altamirano has been drug testing. It was determined when we were on the hearing for the Nueces case, I did get the hair follicle back for Mr. Altamirano, and he did test positive for cocaine. Mom tested for me last week. Her hair follicle was also positive. She was positive for meth, cocaine, and marijuana. And just to put on the record, she is 16 weeks pregnant at this time from her current boyfriend.
So what recommendation, if any, does the department have regarding visitation by mom or father?
I would say, I would say for mom, no visits at all at this time. I would recommend the same for dad. But that's going to be a.
All right,
To-
and I'm trying to think, do you have any idea, the children are in the Karnes County school system, correct? Are they in Kennedy or Karnes City?
In Kennedy.
And do you have any idea what the last day of school is?
That I am not sure. I can find that out. I can get with Yvette real quick and ask her, but I'm not sure.
Was the desire to have the children finish out the semester where they're at right now, was that a factor in deciding whether or not to do a slow monitored return or return and monitor?
Yes, sir. We'd like the children to finish out their school year.
And but for that, the department would probably be recommending a return and monitor. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Morales, questions from you?
Yes, thank you. You indicated that you spoke with mom 2 weeks ago. Do you have a current address for her?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a new address or is it the same address?
It's a new address. When I did speak to her, she was, her and her boyfriend were living or staying in a motel. But they are now in an apartment.
And who is this new boyfriend? Do you have his name?
All she gave me was Jose, another Jose.
Okay, so you weren't able to verify his last name, but do you do know that they live together?
Yes, she did verify that and stated they are together.
And has he made himself available to the department?
No, he has not. When I did find and locate Miss Gomez, he was working, so I didn't get to speak to him at all.
What about mom? Is she working?
No.
And you indicated that she did participate in a drug test, but she hasn't worked any of her other services. Is that correct?
That's correct. I resubmitted all her referrals to Gulf Coast. I let her know, so she was supposed to be contacting them. I don't know if she has or has not.
Where is this new address? What city or town is it in?
It's in Corpus.
And have you had an opportunity to view it?
No, I have not. She just gave me this address on Friday.
Okay. And has she indicated that she's willing to restart services?
Yes, she has.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Mr. Hall, do you have any questions?
I do, Your Honor. Ms. Puente, are the children currently involved in any type of therapy?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and this is play therapy with a therapist, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when are these therapies done with the kids? Do you know what day a week or how many times?
They're done bi-weekly.
Okay.
With here at the Community Action Center in Beeville.
And are they done during the week or on the weekends?
During the week.
Okay. And the children are currently going to school where?
In Kennedy.
Okay. And do you know when the school year ends in Kennedy?
I just found out the last day is May 25th.
And have you talked with my client at all about the children finishing school up there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she thinks that's probably in the best interest of the kids also. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And my client has done each and everything that the department has asked. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we've been at this for about 9 months. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Father is testing positive for cocaine and mother hadn't done anything. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is pretty consistent with the history of these parents, isn't it? That they've been involved with CPS for some time now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
This is not their first rodeo with CPS.
No, sir.
In fact, Miss Rodriguez, Mary Lou, has been there for these kids ever since CPS has started these chain of investigations and removals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And prior courts have placed with Mary Lou Rodriguez for the safety and welfare of these children. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And she's been there for them each and every time.
Yes, she has.
And in fact, she adopted Serenity, and she was the managing conservator of the other two children. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And up until the time of this allegation, everything seemed to be going extremely well. Is that correct?
As to my knowledge, yes.
And to your knowledge, this allegation came about after an extended stay with the mother. The child had made allegations against my client and against the father. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you see any real problem if my client, the children finished school up there, but my client had weekend visitation with the children?
What we wanted to start with, the department's plan was to have the next 4 Saturdays of 8 hours of unsupervised visits for Ms. Rodriguez. If those visits go well, then the next 4 weekends of overnight visits. 1 overnight visit on the weekend, and then those go well, then we'd go into a full weekend.
Well, by that time, school will be over. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and also with y'all's plan, we would be up against the deadline for dismissal without a 401 extension. And we're still on a weekend return and monitor. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But with the return and monitor, there would be an extension. But you don't think 9 months, 10 months is long enough for Mary Lou to be without those kids? If she's done each and everything y'all ask?
Yes, sir, I understand, Mary's perspective of everything, but I'm just, doing this a slow process for the children to be able to adjust. They've also been in this placement for the last 9 months and have bonded well with their 2 younger brothers, with the family. So it's going to be a change for them as well, and they will have to adjust to this as well.
I understand. And it would not surprise you if my client is asking for weekend possession, but allowing the kids to finish school up there.
I mean, she can, y'all can request, whatever y'all want, but this is our recommendation from the department.
I understand, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Puente.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. Tiarina, do you have any questions?
Just a couple, Your Honor. Ms. Puente, so at this point, we have a passing home study on the current placement, correct?
That's correct.
And in the other case, no movement has been made to separate the kids so far, correct?
That's correct.
So has grandma verbalized anything about the younger 2 children? Is she willing to accept them, or at least make sure they continue contact?
Yes, she has. She would take them in if she, could.
Okay. And at this point, both parents are positive, or you only have results for Mr. Altamirano so far?
Both parents.
Okay. And he was previously negative in a case under the Corpus case, right?
Correct. Until the last court hearing. Actually, that day I was able to check results, and it was determined that he was positive on his hair follicle.
Okay. So what, did he have a previous hair follicle that was negative?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, have either of the children verbalized to you, like they have to me, that they don't want contact with the parents right now?
The children, yes, the children on this case have verbalized that they do not want visits They see that their two younger brothers go visit with their dad, and they have verbalized that they do not want to do that. And they've also spoken out to their therapist. I do have a letter from the therapist stating that, if they have to, the kids have said if they have to, they'll go, but they really don't want to.
Right. So the therapist rec was supervised, but what is
Yes,
your
supervised.
request from the department? No contact until they're in compliance, or as to visitation with parents?
I would recommend, if the court is gonna order visits for dad or mom, that they are supervised by the department. And not like the case in Oasis where it's just supervised by a family member.
But these two having verbalized they don't want the contact. If neither parent got contact and only grandma is visiting, that's probably acceptable, right?
Yes.
Okay. Has either parent, other than at the adversary, appeared in this Beeville case?
No.
Okay. No further questions.
All right. I also just need to note for the record that Ms. Gomez did join the call, so she is present and joined during the testimony just now. So let me ask any additional questions from Ms. Puente from any party?
No, Your Honor. Could I possibly be placed in a breakout room with my client briefly?
Yes, I can. Just 1 second.
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to call my client. You understand that the department is asking that you re-engage in services. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And have you made attempts to call those service providers to set up appointments?
I have. And I
And have-
left messages to receive a call back.
Okay. I was going to ask you that. Have you received any word from those agencies yet?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can you go ahead and follow up with those agencies again and kind of pester them and bug them until you hear back from them?
Of course. If that's what's going to get my visits back for my kids, yes.
Okay. And that was my next question. Are you asking for visits with your children?
I would love to have my visits back because I understand that they are suspended at the moment.
Okay. What would you be asking this court today as far as visits for your children?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go exaggerating because I know it's been a while since I've shown any kind of effort, but at least something to give me with my kids.
Okay. And do you feel like visiting with them would be a good thing for you as well as for the children?
Yes, to reestablish that bond that I've lost with them.
Okay. And while you're visiting with them, you will continue to work services. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like this court to be made aware of today?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Does anyone else have questions for Ms. Gomez?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. If not, Ms. Morales, any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hall, I think you indicated that you'd like to call Ms. Rodriguez. Can I swear her in?
Your Honor, I don't think we need to.
Okay.
We got enough. Thank you.
Okay. Well then, in light of that, Mr. Tiarina, do you have any witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor, other than we would hear from CASA.
Yes, we'll be hearing. Why don't I go ahead and just ask Ms. Patton if you'd like to provide your report at this time and your assessment of where we are and your recommendation.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. I did, in regards to the children and visitation with either parent, I recommend that the children do not visit with their parents at this time. Both parent has tested positive with hair follicle. And unfortunately, this is kind of in the pattern that they have. I do understand that Mr. Altamirano has started services, and he has been extremely antagonistic to me anytime he speaks to me. So my concern is for the children. They actually have told me they do not want to visit with their parents. I see them, I have seen them monthly since all of this started, and neither child has said that they want to visit with their parents. Unfortunately, the history is there for these children, and they are doing so very well where they are. I do recommend that they do get to visit with their grandmother and or adopted mother. I do agree with that, with Ms. Puente's recommendation as far as Mrs. Rodriguez. So I just don't want the children any more negatively impacted than what they have been in the past. And they are doing very well in school and everything.
That's great.
And they're extremely happy, doing well in school and doing well in sports, and they're happy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Patton. Mr. Tiarina, your assessment as well?
Your Honor, having spoken with the children, the caretaker, and understanding where we are in the case, I would concur with the guardian ad litem as to, at this time, no contact with bio parents until obviously the court hears that they've engaged in services in this case and been responsive to making efforts and changes. But I also understand that a therapist recommendation did say supervise. So in that respect, once that happens, I would imagine the court would be able to better assess and order supervision if, as Mr. Hall said, we may end up with an extension of some sort, whether that's through a 403 because of grandma or a 401 because of now at least one, or if not both parents have shown up in at least one of the two cases in person, I guess you could say on Zoom. So with that in mind, I would ask status quo placement, but work toward the step ups that the department is asking toward giving more access to grandma, and then we should go from there. Other than that, I would ask the children stay where they are, and if you have any thought to that, maybe this is one where a Zoom meeting with the children, the older two, would be helpful. Just if you had wanted to clarify why they feel how they feel.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Tiarina. Ms. Morales or Mr. Hall, do you wish to address the court before we wrap up? Ms. Morales, I'll let you go first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just briefly, the court has heard from Mom. Mom is back on track and wanting to start working her services and is requesting contact with the children, even if, of course, supervised contact is appropriate. She's just asking for an opportunity to re-engage and to be able to visit with them.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Hall?
Your Honor, I believe the parents have had like 4 or 5 opportunities to engage and do what they're supposed to do over a period of 4 or 5 years. My client has been the only one that has stepped up. In this particular case, my client has done every single thing that they have asked to do. She further recognizes that the children, need to finish school because they only got about 40 days left up there. She's perfectly fine with them finishing school. She's perfectly fine with them staying up there to engage in their therapies during the week. But it's been 9 months that I believe these children have been wrongfully taken away from Miss Rodriguez. I think the slow recommendation of the department is just overbearing. I don't see any reason that my client could not get weekend unsupervised visitation with his children. She can pick them up at 6 p.m. on Friday and drop them off on Sunday at 6 p.m. That is slow enough. I think the evidence that was presented by the department says, were it not for the school, they would be recommending a full return and monitor. So my client recognizes the academic issues with withdrawing them from a school and putting them in here to finish 30 days. And she, again, is thinking of the best interest of these children and saying, just give me weekends. You know, I'll sacrifice the week. She would love to be with them full time, but she also understands that's probably not in the best interest of these children. So I would just ask the court to grant my client unsupervised weekend visitation beginning at 6 p.m. on Friday, ending at 6 p.m. on Sunday, until the kids get out of school. And then let's come back and see how these, 6 weeks went and see where we need to go from there. But with regard to the parents, we have fought these parents now for 4 years. It's always an allegation of some type against my client. My client has gotten adoption of Serenity, has gotten managing conservatorship of these other two children. And that is just due to the constant inability of these parents to provide a safe and protective environment for these children. My client has been there for them each and every time. And so that's what I would ask the court to order. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hall, and thank you all.
Moment, Your
Based,
Honor?
oh yeah, Mr. Knight,
Yes, thank you.
sorry.
That's okay. Your Honor, not to put too fine a point on it, Mr. Hall's arguments have merit. The grandmother, adopted mother, is the only person that's done anything in this case. The case, quite frankly, as far as her, is falling apart. It looks like she may have been as CPS the victim of a hatchet job. I understand the department's hesitation, but I'd like to know sooner or later if we're going to have any problems. I don't expect any problems, so I don't think the slow roll is necessary in this cause. Thank you. And as far as the parents are, they weren't protective in the past. They're not protective now by virtue of their drug activity, particularly mom. She's drug active, she's pregnant. Their visitation is a standstill until they do something better. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Knight, and thank you all. Based on the testimony the court has heard today, the court is going to find that in both cases, Ms. Rodriguez is in compliance with her plan of service, and that as of today's date, neither Ms. Gomez nor Mr. Altamirano are in compliance with their plan of service at this time. The court is going to continue the current placement of the children and find that continuation of that placement with Ms. Alvarez is in their best interest, that all of their physical, emotional, developmental, and academic needs are being met there presently. It's in their best interest to remain there, and that there would be a continuing danger if the children were to be returned home at this time. However, the court does feel that it is appropriate to begin unsupervised visits with the children and Ms. Rodriguez. And based on the testimony that I've heard today, the court believes that weekend visitation between now and the end of the school year would be appropriate for her. And the court is ordering those unsupervised weekend visits to start this weekend and for the department to monitor and to continue to assess how the children are doing in her care while she has them in her care, and work towards a potential placement of the children with Ms. Rodriguez following the end of the school year. The court finds that that would be in the best interest of these children at this time. And as far as visitation with Ms. Gomez and Mr. Altamirano, the court would need to see more significant compliance with their plans of service and court orders before those visits could be in the best interest of the children in a supervised fashion. So I'm going to authorize those visits on the condition that they are consistently engaged in their court-ordered services, or they are testing negative or having decreased, significantly decreased levels of drug in their system. So I need, before supervised visits can start, a real indication that Mr. Altamirano and Ms. Gomez are taking this process seriously, are engaged, not just calling and trying to make appointments, but actually attending them and getting positive feedback from providers that they are engaged. And at that point in time, would the court believe that supervised visits would be in the best interest of the children. We are set for our next hearing in this case on June the 13th at 9:30. That is a trial setting. And I've heard today about the plan to pursue placement with Ms. Rodriguez. It's one that this court supports, and the court finds that as the department works towards that goal, that reasonable efforts are being made to achieve permanency for these children, and that's a worthwhile plan to pursue. However, if you are going to ask for an extension on both cases, I'll just put out there that I think, given the different status that Ms. Rodriguez has in each case, that perhaps a 401 extension would be the best option, with just an authorization to place, since we can't pursue a monitored return of Jose and Jolene since she is not a parent. So I do think that that might be our best route in both cases going forward.
Sorry to interrupt, but currently the Jolene and Jose do have Little League on Friday night sometimes.
Mhm.
So will, I just want to clarify that so that Ms. Rodriguez is aware and she can work with.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I'm not going to be, I'd like everyone to work together to coordinate pickup. I would imagine she'd want to go to those games
That's exactly
and
right.
potentially watch and cheer them on, and then maybe take them home following the games that evening. So,
That's what would happen, Your Honor.
okay.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
And
That
thank you.
sounds
I appreciate it.
all right. I'm glad to hear they're engaged in that. Let me just say then that we're going to move the trial date to June the 6th at 2:30 in the afternoon. Will be via Zoom based on the agreement of the parties, which this court records today. I do have to admonish Mr. Altamirano and Ms. Gomez and Ms. Rodriguez that the state of Texas gives parents in your situation 1 year to show the court your ability to provide your children with a safe, stable, drug-free, and violence-free home. And if you're unable to do that within that span of time, your rights are subject to being restricted like they are right now, or terminated, which means cut off altogether.
I
All
have a
right,
question.
thank you all. If there is nothing further at this time, all parties are of the child. The court will recognize that the department is present, represented today by Mr. Mike Knight, joined by Ms. Taylor Jones and Ms. Maria Fernandez. In addition, I don't see Ms. Rita Morales. Oh, there she is. Ms. Rita Morales is here. She is the attorney for the respondent mother, Elisa Contreras, who's present. Mr. William Asari is here as the attorney for the respondent father, Ryan Garcia, and Mr. Garcia is present. We additionally have with us Ms. Kathleen Patton, who is the guardian ad litem for the children with CASA of B County, along with Ms. Mary Ann Featherston. Ms. Michelle Jones is not present. She is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the child, and she has had a death in the family and is not available. And so we are going to go ahead and proceed with the motion if all parties are ready to do so. Mr. Knight, it's your motion, I believe. So are you ready to proceed?
Department is ready,
Ms.
Your Honor.
Jones? All right, Mr. Knight, you may proceed.
Ms. Jones, where are the children currently placed?
He is placed with Juan and Madi in Hebronville.
All right, and the department has requested we could not bring on placement, and so that's why the children are there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the department is requesting an alternative placement. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
And who is the department requesting placement with?
With grandparent Ramiro and Dolores Garcia.
And has a home study been conducted?
Yes, sir.
And what were the results of that home study?
The home study was positive, but there were some concerns with Mr. Garcia having a history of being a drinker of 12 beers daily on the past 20 plus years.
All right, and have you been able to address those?
Yes, sir. So we would ask that he would do monthly alcohol testing, that he would provide proof of him going to AA meetings, and that the grandparents do participate in some family counseling.
And have they agreed to that, Ms. Jones?
Yes, sir. But there has been some pushback. They do want to be placement, but they have been I'm not really sure the word on it, but on the communication with the grandparents, it has been kind of aggressive with them in their text messages towards me, to the point to where I did have to put my supervisor in the text message. And it has just been a lot of he said, she said, pointing fingers. And so our concern is that if Bryson is placed there today, that they will not cooperate with me, or they will give me pushback on I'm trying to meet with them monthly.
All right, Ms. Jones, let's bring something else up.
Yes.
Basically, the posture and path forward on this case has changed, has it not?
Yes, sir.
And what is the department's recommendation regarding the future of the children at this time?
We did have a staffing yesterday, and the autopsy report for Joseph did come back as sudden, an unexplained death of an infant with co-sleeping. So at this time, the department cannot recommend reunification.
So basically, unless fictive kin or family comes forward, it's more important to find fictive kin or family placement. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
And for the record, how is the placement? Hebbronville, it's more of a logistics thing, is it not?
Yes, sir. They are no longer willing to be placement as of today is the last day.
So regardless, these children are going to have to go somewhere. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And I did submit a placement tool to find a licensed home.
And do we have any alternatives to the proposed placement?
Brian did give me possible family with Garcilla and Angela Miller, but due to his criminal history, we cannot recommend that right now. I am pending police reports from some history from 2000 and 2001.
All right. So, but notwithstanding all the foregoing, the department would like to determine whether or not placement of the one child, Bryson, with the paternal grandparents would work out. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, if the placement proves uncooperative with the court's directives or CPS, that placement could fail as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. As we do not have a backup person to watch Bryson. He's on the wait list for daycare, and the possible backup caregivers did not qualify.
Thank you. Pass witness.
All right, Ms. Morales, questions for Ms. Jones?
Okay, so maybe I'm sorry, maybe I'm just a little confused here, but so I understand you have a positive home study, you have some concerns, but ultimately, are you still wanting to place with the grandparents?
Yes, ma'am, if that is approved.
Okay, and what is it that the department thinks mom and dad have not? Let me rephrase this. You received the autopsy report. It states that the reason was co-sleeping, SIDS, and then co-sleeping, correct?
It really wasn't SIDS. It was unexplained.
But you said sudden infant death syndrome.
It was sudden unexplained death of an infant with co-sleeping.
Okay. And is that something that is addressed in the services that parents are receiving?
Yes, ma'am, that should be in their parenting and in their individual counseling.
Okay, and do you receive notes on that
Yes,
to verify that that is being addressed with them?
yes, ma'am.
And if it is being addressed with them and they are progressing in their services, why then would the department change its goal? If the concern is being addressed with the parents by a professional and they're progressing with their services, why then would the department change its goal?
At this time, we do not know really what happened with Joseph. So the department cannot make that recommendation. Of course, if it was court ordered to have him returned to the parents, then we'll have to go by that.
Okay, so the fact that it said sudden unexplained death and then co-sleeping, if
Yes,
co-sleeping was the issue and the co-sleeping is being addressed by a professional with the parents, the department still would not recommend.
that would have to be restaffed with my program director. But as of yesterday, that's what was staffed to have the goal changed.
Okay, and did you relay all this information to mom?
I had not had the chance. I did not know I was going to be asked about it today, but I was going to schedule to go see them this Saturday to talk about it with them.
Okay, was the department making plans on placing him or returning him to mom?
I did talk to parents and I told them if Bryson was returned. I didn't give them any timeline on when Bryson would be returned. So I did not tell them yes, that Bryson would be returned.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Asari?
So as far as the grandparents, I believe, even let's talk a little bit about their cooperation. I believe in the past you requested for them to submit for hair follicle testing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did they get that done in a timely manner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were the results negative?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as the concerns that you addressed about the grandparents' home, I believe it was requested for the grandfather to, or perhaps he volunteered to go in for AA.
Yes.
To your knowledge, has he started that yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think, isn't it also true that the grandparents also removed all alcohol from the home? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then as far as family counseling, do you know if the grandparents have started family counseling?
I do not believe so. They have started on their own. But if Bryson is placed there today, then I will have that started for them.
Okay. And as far as the conditions you placed for the grandparents, had they ever stated that, hey, we don't want to do it or we're opposed to it?
They towards the end, they said that they agreed to it.
Okay. So, you know, what you have in place is they've agreed to all terms, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as the parents, are they remaining in contact with you, or are you is communication going well with them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as far as their services, are they steadily progressing with their services?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think you mentioned about an alternative placement option that's nearby is the Millers. But I think you mentioned there may have been one concern y'all have is about criminal history. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think you mentioned the years. Did you mention the years for concern are 2000 and 2001?
Yes, sir.
So 20 plus years ago, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Jones, no, Your Honor, I would like to call the placement briefly.
All right, you may.
Hello.
Ms. Garcia, this is obviously a contested hearing on the issue of placement. If the court does approve placement with you and your husband, basically it's your placement to keep or throw away. I just want that understood. Well,
To keep or to,
in other words, if the placement is going to work, you're going to have to make it work. And if it,
oh, yes.
I mean, basically, as I said, this, and we haven't got into everything in the hearing yet, but I said it's a contested motion. there will be opposition. If the court does approve this placement, basically, it's your placement to make or break, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank
To
you.
keep.
And Ms. Garcia, thank you. I have no questions of you.
All right. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Garcia at this time?
I do.
Ms.
Your Honor.
Morales? Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Garcia, you understand how important it would be to follow each and every rule and order of this court if Bryson were to be placed with you?
Yes, I do.
And you understand that this court and the department are going to expect that you be protective of him, even if it means having to turn your husband in or whatever it might be.
Yes, I do. But may I say something for the record, please? When we began this, and I know we have text messages to prove it, I do speak with a passion. All the ideas, AA meetings, we would pay for an alcohol breathalyzer. We offered all of those ideas. It was not, they offered them to us. We suggested them we did that. I want that to be on record, that it was not suggested to us. We will do anything. We said that we would install whatever it is, alcohol. We would pay for that. We would do AA. We suggested the counseling. We suggested everything. So there was never any pushback on that. Those were our suggestions, and I do have proof of those. I just want that for the record.
Okay, thank you. And you understand why everyone is so concerned, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you understand that if this placement falls apart, if you can't comply, you or your husband can't comply with what's ordered from the court, that he most likely will be removed from you and not returned to you. You understand how important it is to comply.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, thank you, Ms. Garcia. Any other witnesses, Mr. Knight?
Department arrest, Your Honor.
Ms. Morales, any witnesses from you?
Yes, I would call my client, Your Honor. Ms. Contreras, you understand the purpose of today's hearing is solely for the motion that the department has brought forward. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it your request to this court that your child be placed with the Garcias?
Yes,
Do you believe and trust that they will be able to take care of him and keep him safe?
1,000%.
Okay. And if you had any concerns or any doubts as his mother, would you speak up?
Of course.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Asari, any witnesses from you?
Yes, Your Honor, if I can call Mr. Garcia. Are you asking that your son is placed with your parents?
Yes, sir.
Do you believe that your son's placement with your parents would be in your son's best interest?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. And let's kind of talk about your visits currently with your son being in Hebronville. You're getting visits every Saturday?
Yes, sir. We get visits visitation every Saturday with 2 hours.
Okay. And
Yes, sir.
about how long of a drive is that for you?
It's about an hour and a half.
Okay. And an
Yes.
hour and a half going down there, and then another hour and a half coming back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're on the road for longer than you're seeing your son, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We only
And
get
your
30
parents-
extra minutes.
I understand. And your parents, they live in Beeville, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So, of course, it'll be a more convenient drive for you and your wife to get there to see your son, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as your services, about how much more do you have to do to complete your services?
I have 2 classes of the drug and alcohol abuse. So I will finish that this week coming up. And then I'll be completely done with that with the 36 hours that CPS has requested to ask. Then I have 1 more class with, I have parenting to do as well. And that should be it. I don't have too much more to go. And then I'll be done with everything.
Okay. And how about your wife's progress? Has she made more progress than you with services?
Yes, she has. She has finished the drug and alcohol abuse with the 36 hours. She has a certificate. She's gonna get released this week for parenting, I believe, and I think she's completely done.
Very good. And I guess it's safe to say she moved along further than you because you work more, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else you feel that the court should know about this case or how this case is progressing?
No, sir.
Okay. those are all the questions I have. I'll pass the
All
witness.
right. Well, if I can, then I believe, Ms. Patton, that you have expressed concerns in the past. So I'll give you the opportunity to state your position and what your recommendation is on behalf of Bryson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was very happy when Bryson was with the Varials, and he seemed to be doing very well, accomplishing so much there, and very happy there also. He is a happy child. And unfortunately, when visitations began over there, after visitations, the child, Bryson, was throwing tantrums. He threw tantrums in daycare. He bit and hit children in daycare. I spoke to the daycare director, and she said he was a very strong-willed child that was doing those types of things. And, he's been through a lot. And so I am concerned that the potential placement, they have been extremely antagonistic towards me, and sent all kind of ugly text messages to myself, which I forwarded to my supervisor also. I am concerned that if placement is there, that they will do that, will continue in that mode, because placement is not even there at this time. And I feel it's unfortunate, but I feel like Bryson has had very little discipline in his life. And so this is normal for him. This type of behavior. And I feel that Bryson needs to be placed not with a family member. Family members have lied to me, and I am extremely concerned for Bryson and the best interests of Bryson. I do think that his parents are working very hard to accomplish what they need to accomplish. And I am very happy about that. In that regard, I am happy. And I do think that this is struggling for everyone. And I do think that they are trying very hard.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Patton. Does anyone else need to address the court at this time before we finish up? Let me just hear from the attorneys. Ms. Morales?
All right.
Judge, I would ask if CASA is receiving concerning text messages, I would ask that they share those with us. I think that's important for us to know what's going on, what they're experiencing. If it's something that we can address or that we can, assist in, then I would like to do so. If not, I still think it's very important for us to have all the information.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Morales.
I'll be happy to.
Okay. All right. At this time, the court is going to authorize Bryson's placement with Mr. and Mrs. Garcia upon condition that for all the conditions that were mentioned earlier, that Mr. Garcia attends AA, that he submits to monthly alcohol testing, and that they participate in family counseling as well. And I appreciate if those are services you all suggested and indicated you were willing to do. I'm going to give you that opportunity. And I'm also going to just ask that everyone hit a reset button at this point in terms of personal conduct and your interactions with the parties in this case. Because Ms. Patton is appointed by me to act as the guardian ad litem for Bryson, she needs to have access to your home, and you need to be courteous and respectful to her in her doing her job on behalf of Bryson and reporting to the court. And so I don't want there to be any animosity or, antagonistic conduct that's going to prevent her from doing her job and is going to potentially result in destabilizing the placement and maybe calling for Bryson to be placed elsewhere. I think everyone, the tensions are high, and you all have, as a family, endured a very difficult loss. And I know not one of us would want the intrusion into our homes and our lives and assessing things about ourselves and our personal behavior and conduct and choices that we have to face and acknowledge that maybe we can do things a little bit differently going forward. I know that that's not easy, but I need a certain level of respect granted to Ms. Jones and her professional capacity and to Ms. Patton, because it's my expectation that they be allowed access to your home and access to Bryson going forward. I do view this as an opportunity that I don't want squandered. And I believe wholeheartedly that children should be with family and should be given that opportunity. So let's make this work for everyone involved, and importantly for Bryson. I think if Mr. Garcia and Ms. Contreras are doing as much as been reported today, that they need to have the ability to visit on a more regular basis and to have, and this opportunity gives them that. So I'm urging you all to make this work. And so can I get that pledge from everyone that we're resetting the button now in terms of how we respond and we move forward?
Yes,
because Ms. Patton plays a very important role in this case, and Ms. Jones obviously does as well. And we need to all work together for Bryson's benefit. And we can all have different ideas and opinions about what's in his best interest, but the important thing to remember here is that everybody cares about that in their own individual ways. So let's just remember that going forward. We are scheduled to come back for our next hearing on May the 9th at 1:30. So I'll have an immediate opportunity in just a month's time to assess how the placement change has gone and whether there are any issues or concerns. And I'm hoping that there aren't going forward. I do want all information shared between the parties. And it would seem to me, at least for now until our next hearing, that the visitation schedule that's in place, I think it's weekly, correct? Weekly supervised visitation, that continue supervised. At least I'd like to have the department supervise for now. Let Bryson settle into the home and we can assess and determine whether tweaks can be made to the visitation schedule following that. But it gives us a good month to let Bryson settle in. The other thing is that I need to do at this time, given Ms. Jones' status, feel very sorry for her loss. She has had a difficult and very tragic loss in her family. I'm going to substitute counsel at this time to come in because there's too much going on with Bryson to not have the ability to have an ad litem, an attorney advocating for him as well and working with Ms. Patton going forward. So I'm substituting Richard Saldivar as the attorney ad litem for Bryson going forward as well. All right. And again, can I get a consensus that Zoom is the preferred format for these hearings going forward? I believe it is. And so if that is the case, I'd just like to record that agreement on the record.
The department so requests, Your Honor.
All right. I see some thumbs up. So Ms. Contreras, thank you. All right. Very good. Well, thank you. We will continue via Zoom on May the 9th at 1:30. Is there anything else that we need to address at this time?
No.
If not, Ms.
you so much.
Contreras.
Since you said about the placement and stuff, will we be able to still see him this Saturday? Yes,
Is that
we
a
will.
scheduled visit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
I would think so.
sure.
I would think so. Yeah.
I just wanted
All
to make
right.
sure about that.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
we are all right. Well, thank you all. If there's nothing further, hearing on the department's motion regarding placement of the children And the court will recognize that the department is present, represented by Mr. Mike Knight, joined by Ms. Brandy Marion, the caseworker assigned to the case. Mr. Christopher Bunch is present as the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children in this case.
And what's the current placement of the children?
The current placement, Messiah is currently still placed with the foster parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Mario is placed with his brother, Kevin Gaitan and Sierra Chavez.
And what's the path forward?
The path forward, Kevin and Sierra would like to adopt Mario and the Johnsons would like to adopt Messiah.
And so we're working towards that goal.
That is what the children would like. Yes, sir.
All right. And so basically, we're asking the court to continue the department as permanent managing conservator until such time as the adoptions can be completed, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that the places be approved as being in the children's best interest?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Pass the witness.
Mr. Bunch, questions from you?
Thank you, Your Honor. If it's all right with the court, Ms. Marion, if you could just briefly, I just want to hear about how the children have been doing in each placement. Could you just briefly go over for Mario, how he's been doing in school, his medical and dental history as well recently?
Mario's been doing really well in placement. His behaviors have actually been improved compared to how they were in the foster home prior. Medically wise, he's doing good. He did see a doctor. He had a rash. Shortly after placement, they took him to the doctor and got some steroids and antibiotics, and that cleared up. School-wise, he's been doing well. Mario always does really well in school. That hasn't been an issue. And dental-wise, he had his dental cleaning prior to being placed with Kevin and Sierra. So he's not due for another, I think, about 5 months to get his dental cleaning. So he's up to date on everything.
Okay, and basically the same question for Messiah with the Johnsons since the change of placement has happened.
Messiah's doing really good. School-wise, she's doing really good. She's up to date on her medical and dental. I think her recent ones were in March also for the physical and dental. No issues with any of those, no medical issues. Every time I talk to her, she's very happy and just seems really at peace where she's at and seems to be doing really well.
Okay. What about visitation between the siblings? How is that going?
So right now, it's just set up where Kevin and Mr. Johnson are contact each other to set up the visits for the siblings. I talked with all the adults and everybody felt that would be a good start rather than a set schedule, just because, you know, everybody's schedule fluctuates. I know that Kevin, I know that Mario is scheduled to go over there 2 different weekends. The Johnsons have said Mario could come over and even spend the night. You know, they've opened their home to Mario to come and visit. And at the last minute, Mario called and said he didn't want to go. I haven't been able to follow up with Kevin on that yet. But I know Mario and Messiah, they do see each other at school every day and, you know, they're able to talk. So we don't have any formal visitation set up at this time. And both parties just kind of felt they really didn't want a formal set schedule at this time.
Okay, but they're able to talk and text.
They talk and they talk and they text. And like I said, they see each other every day at school and can talk to each other. And then as far as visits outside, both parties are just agreeing to set things up. Messiah can go over to Kevin's house. Mario can come over to the Johnsons. So there's a lot of flexibility and all parties are willing to ensure the kids are connected.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Knight?
Department rests, Your Honor. Close.
All right. Well, let you go ahead and do that.
I have rested and closed, Your Honor.
Do you have any argument or anything to add on behalf?
Recommending status quo, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bunch, do you have a recommendation in regards to the motion and regarding the children?
Yes, well, I think first of all, the children, I think they're doing really great in both of the placements. It's unusual to split siblings up in this kind of scenario, but just based on the facts and circumstances in this particular case, I think it makes sense. And the children are not old or anything, but I think they're old enough to have a significant say in what goes on. They both seem to really like this arrangement. So I support the motion.
All right. Well, the court is going to grant the department's request to pursue separate permanency goals for each of the children in this case, continue the separate placements for Messiah and Mario, and approve and authorize the plans to pursue adoption by current caregivers, and so therefore separate placements. I'm just really pleased to hear about how well the children are doing. I think Mr. Gaitan is here as well, and I appreciate you being here, sir, and for all that you're doing for Mario and your commitment to being a long-term placement option for him. I think that the proposed plan is in the best interest of both Mario and Messiah, and I'll order the department to begin the work to move towards that permanency goal and prepare the case for adoption by both placements. So thank you for bringing this issue to my attention and for your work with these children. We will be back for our next permanency review after final order on June the 6th at 9:30, so we can review the progress towards, getting the case ready for adoption for both children. And I'm assuming that the preference for that hearing would be via Zoom.
Yes, Your Honor.
Department so request, Your Honor.
All right. And so the court will record the agreement of the parties to proceed via Zoom at that hearing on June the 6th at 9:30. Thank you all so much.
And we are back on time.
We are back on track. I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.